Okay, you've been unemployed for a year and you don't know how to sell yourself. Valid question. I want to break down for you what I would do if I was coming up on a year anniversary of being unemployed, how I would switch what I was doing in order to get hired. Okay. First of all, most recruiters and hiring managers are looking at the 6-month mark as the moment where they start to question what's going on. They don't bat an eyelash. If you've been unemployed for less than 6 months, they understand how long the hiring process takes. They're not really thinking much about it. But the moment you creep over 6 months, they're starting to wonder what's going on. Why weren't you able to land? When it comes up on a year, then they're really wondering, is something going on? And the problem is their mind starts to go. Is this person out sick? Do they have a problem getting hired? Are they, an issue? Their mind goes to bad places. Okay. So when they ask you, why have you been out of work for a year? And they will, you've got to be ready with a killer answer. All right. And the secret to the right answer to this question is something called an MOA, a moment of accountability. See, if you start to try to excuse it away, well, I didn't know the job market would be so bad. And, I didn't expect this. And that looks suspect. It looks like you're trying to hide something. If you want your answer to be authentic, if you want them to really embrace your answer and be able to say, okay, let's consider this person, you've got to take ownership of 1 to 2 things that have happened in the last year that, knowing what you know now, you would have done differently. I'm not saying you did anything wrong, because in the moment, folks, we all try to do what's right in the moment. But we've all done some things where, a year later we can look back and go, well, that wasn't the right choice, or that wasn't the right decision. Okay. You don't beat yourself up. At the time you were doing what you thought was right. But you also need to be powerful enough and to reclaim your power by saying, I can accept, I can own, I can take a moment of accountability and say, yeah, if I was in the same situation, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have done this and I wouldn't have done that. So for example, if you've been out of work for a year, an answer might sound like something like this. I'm glad you asked that question, because if you had asked me a year ago if I would still be unemployed a year later, I would have absolutely laughed and said, no way. When I started my job search, I was super selective. I was only finding 1 to 2 companies every couple of weeks that had a job I felt I was a fit for. And I just assumed, like in past job markets, that I would get interviews. But very quickly, 6 months passed and I realized something was going on, that the market was different and that I was probably being too selective. Then I started to triple down and apply to anything and everything. And looking back now, I realized that was a complete waste of my time as well. Because the reality is I should be focusing in on companies that can really hire my skill sets, and I should be doing everything in my power to reach out and let them know that I'm available and why I want to work for them, which is why I'm here with you now, because I don't want to be unemployed anymore. I am so excited that I got this interview opportunity with you. And what I want to do is nail this interview and get hired and put this chapter behind me, because I never want to be out of work for a year again. You're reclaiming your power. You're owning to, here's what I've learned from this experience. Here's how I've grown from this experience. It's been a hard one, but I'm learning and growing. I'm not a victim. I'm going to be the hero of my own story. I'm going to close this chapter on my unemployment, and I would love for you to be a part of it. I'm really excited to be here today because I'm learning and growing. That is the kind of thing, obviously in your own voice tone and your own word choice, but that is the kind of thing that's going to make any hiring manager, recruiter, HR go, okay, you get it, right? You got to show some humility. You got to show some accountability. Yeah. And when you do that, they will move you forward. When you don't do that, you look like you're hiding something and you will not move forward. So be careful, my friends. Make sure that you write this out. We have a framework. So I actually have a course called Fired to Hired inside Work It Daily. And it could be laid off to hired, quit to hired, whatever it is that you did. If you've got a gap in employment, I have a whole structure where you write this out using the experience plus learn equals grow model, so that you have an answer that has a beginning, a middle, and an end that covers the moments of accountability and makes sure that it's landing correctly. And then you write it and you rewrite it. And if you work with our coaches on it, we get it to a place where you really feel comfortable with it. Because a big part of you saying this is that they will read your body language, your voice tone. They're very keen on that. And they will know if you're not really identifying with what you're saying. So we have to take you through the cathartic experience of getting you there. And when we get you there, you're going to be so ready to give this answer and you're going to be shocked. They're going to go, okay. And you're going to move forward. Happens all the time, all the time. So if you want to see that course, it's in Work It Daily. Go grab the 7-day free trial and check the course out.